One thing we do every time we have an event is to acknowledge that we are on native land, and we think in honor of those who have preceded us, including the people of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Nisqually, and Muckleshoot tribes. And Fred is your MC tonight for 7 Stories. Come on, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Fred Swanson, and welcome to 7 Stories, another great night. I will say earlier, my technical difficulties started earlier in the day where I couldn't get my printer to work at home, and so I had to take my notes on my phone, so I apologize. I know that seems like maybe something that someone younger would do, so, you know. Listen, I got 3 teenagers, so I know all about it. We had 8 storytellers lined up tonight. We had 7 plus an alternate in case someone got sick. Indeed, someone did get sick, and then indeed someone else got sick. And so we have 6 stories tonight instead of 7. So the 7th can be the one that you tell yourself in your head about tonight as you walk or drive or ride a bike home, or whatever you're doing. However you got here, however you go home. So thank you to the Highline Heritage Museum. If you are not a member, I can just tell you that the family membership is a heck of a deal and a heck of a steal because you can bring your whole family here and they can all come on your membership, and you know, the exhibits change, but there's always something new. I know every time we come here, there's something new that we discover in the museum, and that's exciting. I also work with Highline Public Schools, and so I love it that there's artifacts from the district here and artifacts from the schools as well. So that's very cool. Want to give thanks to the City of Burien for their support, the Burien Arts Association, the Burien Culture Hub, and of course, the B-Town blog that is here tonight. And we are live, I think, on Facebook. And so you can go on Facebook later and go to B-Town blog and watch it again and again and again. That can be like an 8th story, is you watching it with someone. Anyway, follow us on Meetup on BurienCultureHub.org/7stories, where you can read all about us. Check out, go to Meetup, and you can search 7 Stories, and you'll find us there. And also on either of those sites, you can get access to the link that gets you to sign up for a story, and we want you to tell one. So please. Tonight, we're going to start with Wendy Swyt, who has taught at Highline College for 28 years. She lives in West Seattle with her husband and has 2 almost grown children who are both amused and embarrassed by her dress and demeanor, so I'm looking forward to this. She will tell the story of how, again and again, she forgets that she doesn't like live theater. So come on up, Wendy.
So one of the themes tonight is brushes with the law, but I am very anxious and law-abiding, so that's not the theme. My theme is, what the hell am I doing? Which is exactly what I think again and again when I'm in the audience at a live theater production. My husband pointed out the irony of here I am telling a story, and isn't that live theater? But I said to him, listen, it's only 7 minutes. And there's very little chance anyone's going to break the 4th wall. Now, in case you're not familiar with that term, the 4th wall, it's a theater term. It's like the TV screen. It's the wall, the invisible wall between the audience and the performers. And I don't like when that is violated. It makes me uneasy and even disturbed. So my first story of that happening was many years ago. My husband and I went to see a play in North Seattle. One of my students, Bethany, lovely student, was into drama, performing in live theater, and she was performing in a play up in North Seattle. So we bought tickets and went up to support her. And when we went up to the will call window, I said, oh, I'm Bethany's teacher at Highline College, and they were all thrilled that I was there. And so they moved our seats from up in the balcony to down right near the stage and right on the aisle, which I was happy about because I'm kind of tall and I could stick my foot out in the aisle. Anyway, I don't even remember the play, but one of the actors was gesticulating and all dramatically speaking, so dramatically so that a gob of slobber flew from his mouth in a slow motion arc and landed on my naked toe because I was wearing sandals. The fourth wall did not protect me from a stranger's slobber landing on my toe. So then my next story of the fourth wall disintegrating comes from my husband was like, Wendy, it's my birthday. I want to go to the West Seattle Theater and see the production Hair. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Hair was created in like the late 60s, and it's all these counterculture hippies rebelling against the Vietnam War and the establishment, and of course rebelling against short hair. But it's a musical, and I thought, oh, I like musicals. I really enjoyed Glee on TV, where the fourth wall is intact, right? So I'm like, this won't be as bad. But of course, there's a couple empty chairs sitting right next to me, and of course, this actress who was like a pregnant hippie came right up and sat next to me, grabbed my arm, and sang Age of Aquarius right into my face. So I'm sitting there, and you can see my face. My lips are smiling like, oh, isn't this fun? What a thrill. And my eyes were just like, unhand me! Get back behind the fourth wall, you sweaty, pregnant hippie lady. So my husband has said that my horror of the fourth wall being broached, as I have somehow genetically passed it on to my son Leo. When my son Leo was 2.5 years old, I bought these Groupon tickets for Leo and I to go to the Gingerbread Man at Children's Theater. Again, what the hell am I doing here? Right? So I bought these tickets. It was going to be a musical, I thought. It's going to be great. But I got a horrible head cold, so I couldn't go. So Eric ended up taking Leo. And according to Eric, it was about 10 minutes in, they were enjoying the production, and then the gingerbread man broke the fourth wall, and he leapt off the stage and began running through the audience, chased by the farmer and the farmer's wife and probably a cow, much to the delight of most of the several hundred children who were laughing and screaming, except for 2.5-year-old Leo. Leo, according to Eric, stood up on his chair and said, with great purpose and fear, Leo, go home! Leo, go home now! Leo, go home now! And Eric could not persuade Leo that his life was not in danger from the fourth wall and the gingerbread man. And he said he was in the middle of the aisle, so he's like, excuse me, and had to bring Leo home. So Leo was just a toddler then, and Eric says that I am like a toddler every time he is at a play with me. I fidget and twitch and I whisper my messages of dismay during the play, and then sometimes I even, when it's really bad, I grab his leg and squeeze really hard, which is my secret message. Oh my God, if this play doesn't end soon, I'm gonna start screaming, Wendy, go home! Wendy, go home now! So I'll tell you the last story of this fourth wall breakage. Friends of ours gave us free tickets to another play in the West Seattle Junction, and I don't even remember the name of it, but it was the characters were these two teens who had been living on the street, troubled lives, and they ended up in a shelter for troubled teens. And the whole play was them talking back and forth to each other in their dorm room. There were no other characters, there were no scene changes. In fact, there was no intermission. It was about 80 minutes of straight talking back and forth. And, again, it's like, what the hell was I doing? I was like, free tickets, this is good, I'm cultured. So we go, and it was at the kind of tail end of COVID, so we all had to wear masks. And the theaters were opening up. There weren't a lot of people there, right? So it was about 15 of us. And Eric and I, my husband and I, got seated right in the third row, right in the center. And it was dark, and I go to bed early. It was kind of past my bedtime. And I have to admit, I fell asleep a few times. You know, like there's a mask on, and somehow when you're wearing a mask, you feel like people can't see you. That fourth wall is up, but I'm sure the actors could see me because we were right there. And so at the end of the play, one of the actors was, as the character, reading from his angsty poetry book. And he delivered the last few lines, it seemed, while staring angrily right into my eyes. And afterwards I said to Eric, I felt like he was looking right at me with great rage. But maybe, you know, like you see a painting and it seems trick of the light, the eyes are following you. I'm like, and Eric said, oh no, he was looking right at you. I looked, he wasn't looking at me. I looked around, there was no one around you. He was looking right at you. So here he is with his poetry, and the last lines of the poem were the same. He repeated this over and over again, was staring with great disgusted outrage at me. He had probably seen me fall asleep several times, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna mimic with this front row. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? He said with great hatred. And I thought, crap, I am here. What the hell am I doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I was, as you were telling the story of the spit hitting your toe, all I could think was my daughter's always like, put your dogs away, which is like what she calls toes. And so so it's a good reason to keep my dogs in my shoes, apparently. You did a great job reacting and encouraging Wendy, who was, of course, amazing and funny and engaging. I forgot to talk about that part. Please feel free to enjoy yourself tonight and outwardly express your joy. So laugh if something's funny, or clap, or give affirmation to these incredible storytellers who are vulnerable up here on the mic and sharing a piece of themselves. So great job, Wendy. Thank you. Next up, Christine, and I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name. Mahar, Christine Mahar, thank you, says that in her almost 82 years, she's never turned down an adventure, but oh boy, learning the hard way can be traumatic. I'll slow down now and be more cautious, she says, maybe. Her story asks the question, who is smarter, me or the sheep? Christine.
My husband and I had a farm just north of Sandpoint, Idaho. And friends a few miles down the road were going out of town for a few days, and I had agreed that I would look over their farm, take care of their animals while they were gone out of town. It wasn't a huge, big deal challenge because we had what were called hobby farms, so there wasn't a lot of farm labor involved in this at all. I just had to stop by first thing in the morning, let chickens out, collect eggs, feed them, check waters, cats in the barn, and they had 3 sheep, 2 ewes, and a ram whose name was Louie. And then I would stop by in the evening again and put everything back together and check everything. So the very second night that I was on duty, I pull up in the evening, and there's a note on the screen door that says, the shearers will be here until 6 p.m. Well, now, and it was signed Dorothy. And I knew that this was the farm only 1 mile down the road. And I look at my watch, and it's like 10 after 5. I thought, no sweat. I can do this. So I get their big old Dodge Ram truck, and I back it up to their equipment shed where there is a stock trailer about 8 feet long, 5 feet wide, with big, tall, slatted sides. And I managed to get it lined up with the hitch, and I go back and jump on the hitch to get it connected, and I lock it in place. And then I'm pulling the truck with the trailer around behind the equipment shed, and over close to the sheep's pasture. They had their own pasture, and Jake had told me, you don't have to do a thing for the sheep. Just check their big water tank and make sure it's clean and that nothing is floating in it and that it's full. He said, but I want to tell you, there's one thing about Louis. He said, do not ever turn your back on Louis the ram. He said, he will not be able to resist the big temptation and you will be flying through the air. So, I've got the truck around the back, I've got the ramp down, I go in the barn and I get pockets full of sheep treats. I open their pasture gate and I go, here, sheepy, sheepy, come on, look what I've got, look what I've got. Louis looks up and he's smelling those alfalfa cookies. So here he comes, and wherever Louis went, his 2 ewes were right behind him. So here they come, and I back up out of the gate, and I back over toward the truck, and I just walk up the ramp, and I go, come on. And Louis proceeds to walk straight on by to the other side of the truck. So I get down, and I try going around beside them, herding them back onto the truck ramp. Nope, he walks around the other side of the truck. I tried throwing the treats up in the truck bed to lure them. I tried getting a towel and, waving them. I'm one person trying to herd them. Louis was not going to get in that truck. So I see there's a little shed right there, and I open the door, it's empty, and I throw some sheep treats into the shed. Sure enough, Louis sees it, and there he goes with his girls right behind him into the shed. So I shut the door. And then all I had to do was get the truck and the trailer lined up to that shed door. Yeah. And, and I could get them right in the truck. Well, how many people here have backed up a truck with a trailer attached? So the truck goes this way, the trailer goes that way. So I had already spent like 10 minutes just trying to herd them into the truck bed. And now I am trying to maneuver. So I'm going forward, going back. Nope, going forward, going back. Nope, going forward, going back. I spend like 10 more minutes doing this. By now it's like after 5:30, excuse me. So finally, I just thought, this is the best I can do. On one side of the truck, between the ramp and the shed, was about a foot space. And when I opened the shed door, that space would be blocked off. But on the other side, there was about a 4-foot space. And I thought, oh, Louis will see that. He'll just take right off. He'll go right out that way and take off. So by now, I'm getting kind of frantic. And I'm looking all around. How am I going to do this? I see leaned up against the shed is this old metal gate. It's broken. It's got a big hole in the middle of it, but I thought, well, it's wide enough, I can use it as a barricade, and then if I just stand right by it, I can kind of hopefully channel these sheep up into this truck. So I get it all propped. I open the shed door. I walk in the shed, and with sheep, you can herd sheep, but you gotta stay facing. I walk around behind the sheep, and sure enough, Louis sees that the door's open. And he starts walking toward the door. So I sidle over, so I'm right next to the doorway, and I'm ready, and he sticks his head out the door, and he spots the ramp of the truck, and then he just bolts into that gate. And he gets that whole gate rammed, good word, rammed onto his big old woolly head. And then, of course, he's just totally panicked. So I grab the end of the gate, and he is just scrambling forward. He doesn't know enough to stop or back up. So he's scrambling forward, and I'm hanging on for dear life. So we proceed to go in a circle. We're going around once. We're going around the second time. And as we're going around the second time, I thought, well, if I can just pull him back about 1.5 feet, I can get him aimed up the truck ramp on his third go-round. And thank goodness that's what happened. So he scrambles up into this truck bed. As soon as he gets up there, he stops, puts his head down, and the gate falls right off. And his girls, who are so freaked at all this, they're huddled up from the four corner of they're in the truck. So he jumps over the gate, he gets in front of his girls, and I fling that gate off the truck. I hoist up the ramp, I get it bolted in, I get in the truck, I go around the equipment shed, down the driveway, a mile down the road, and into the neighbor's driveway. And as I'm getting out of the truck, I can see in the shed, this is like 5 minutes to 6 now. There are 3 shearers, and they're still shearing sheep. So I just go in and say, "Hi, I've got Jake Leedy's sheep out here. I hope I'm not too late." I said, "Well, I just got off work, and I came right over here." Liar, liar, pants on fire. And they say, "Oh, no problem. It's okay." And out from the shed walks this tiny little, I have to say wizened, I think that's the right word, old lady. And I knew that she was the original owner of this farm like 70 years before. And I'd also heard she's like in her 90s. Here she comes, she's got big rubber boots on. She comes striding out. She knows Jake's truck, so we get the ramp down. She clambers up into the truck and she goes, "Hey, Louie, come on, boy." She walks right up and she gets this grip on his ear, and here they come. Down the ramp, around the truck, and into the shed. I'm just like, what in the hell am I doing? I mean, really, how do you get over a trauma like that? This was like 40 years ago. I'm still not over it. Anyway, thanks. This was fun.
Thank you, Christine. Up next, we have Gaylloyd Sisson, who is a fair weather cyclist, a local author and poet. He moved from San Diego and settled here 36 years ago, and upon meeting his partner, Kathleen, a famous local author and poet. Oh, wait, apparently I've said the same sentence over again. So he stuck around after he and Kathleen got here.
Thank you very much. And I like the 2 stories that I heard before. My story, I don't know where to begin. Maybe because I should begin in Vietnam, where I was. And at the end of my 4 years, in fact, and my close friend, we had just finished playing pinochle. It was his last day to take his flight over Nam and come home, come back and go back to his wife and 2 kids. And I promised I would be on the flight deck when he did, to watch him come. But he came too low, and he went right into the back of the ship. And all I saw was a ball of fire. Shoo. Devastating. I never would forget that. And I promised I would, as soon as I get out of the college, get out of the Navy, I'm going to go to college because this is just too much. And my father spent 34 years in the Navy. He thought I would be a career person like him. No, I couldn't get out fast enough. And I couldn't get into college fast enough, so I immediately registered and I studied hard. I was planning to be an MD. I thought that would be the best thing for me to help other people. And so, but you got to start from the beginning, and so my first semester, I studied, and I was I got almost straight A's through everything. And the finals were coming up. I was so worried. I had studied. I was so worried. I got in my car and it wouldn't start. So I called my brother and said, "I need you to take me to school. I got a finals now." And so he said, I can't. You can come over, you can come over, get the car, and you can use the car to go to school. Well, I put on my old Navy jacket and had my book. I was ready to take this final. And I'm driving, I'm almost to school. and I get pulled over by a police officer. Oh, I forgot to tell you. What's the theme? The theme is...
Can you put the mic up a little bit?
There you, is that better? Brush with the law. I brush with the law. So I'm driving, and this police officer pulls me over. I go, good grief, what could he be? I knew I wasn't speeding. What could he be pulling me over for? And I sat in the car, and I just waited for him to come, and he came and asked me for my driver's license, and so I give it to him, and he's still holding me there, and I'm looking at my watch, and my finals will be starting in 20 minutes. Oh my God, I gotta get to school. What is he doing? Finally, he comes back. I get out of the car, and he said, get back in, get back in. So I got back in, and he came over to the window, and he said, all right, you can get out. So I got out, and he said, I'm arresting you. You're arresting me? And he put handcuffs on me and made me walk back into his vehicle, and I'm trying to figure out what is he arresting me for. And so I asked him, and he said, well, on the front of your car, you have one license plate, and on the back, you have a different one. Well, my brother had 2 cars, and he had somehow put the license plates there. So, yeah. So I was pissed, but I wasn't worried because I hadn't done anything. And they take me in, and they put me in jail, and I just don't know what to do. I got this final, and I can't go because I'm in jail, and I'm in jail because my brother put 2 license plates on the car, and and then another police officer came in, and he said, hey, Gaylloyd Sisson, because we always call each other by our last name, what are you doing in here? And I said, that's what I would like to know. And then I told him about the license plates. He said, you're not in here for anything like that. And I said, well, what in the hell am I in here for? Armed robbery. Armed robbery? What store did I rob? Oh, you didn't rob a store, you robbed a bus. I robbed a bus. He said, yeah. And so I'll go get I forget what the police officer, the captain or somebody. I'll go get him, and he has to interview you. Oh man, I'm steaming and worried now. What's this all about? And I go into this room, and he's sitting at his desk, going through papers, and I said, I was told I'm here for armed robbery. How in the world, I didn't cuss, and you still don't. How in the world did you figure I robbed a bus? Oh no, yeah, I robbed a bus. And he said, well, the person that robbed that bus was a black man wearing a navy jacket and walked with a limp. Walked with a limp. Yeah, I'm black, I have a jacket, but this isn't. I walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Does that look like a limp? Does that look like a limp? He said, no, we made a mistake. But they made me sign a paper that I wouldn't bring any, they made that I wouldn't bring any suit against them. So I signed it. I just wanted to get out of jail. So I signed this paper, and I left. And I finished college, and then I got my first, I applied for a teaching position. I had changed my major. I applied for a teaching position, and I put on there, because I was still pissed, that I was falsely arrested. Well, I couldn't get my credentials right away because of that. And so they had to investigate it, and then when they finally came to the conclusion that what I told them was true, and that they would give me my teaching credentials. But for a caveat, They said, "Don't ever tell anybody about this again." So I began this by telling you about my close friend crashing and going through college and my event with the police officer and what they did. But all of this and being a veteran, I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to tell anybody about my experience. I didn't want to tell anybody about the 5 guys I went to high school that came in body sacks. I didn't want to tell anybody about my next door neighbor who came home with shrapnel all through his body. And finally, several years later, his mom had to ban him from coming home because the shrapnel was driving him nuts. And it did drive him nuts. I would call him once in a while, and after a while, when I called him on the phone, he made no sense. And then one day, he killed himself. So that's my story.
Well, Gaylloyd, we're grateful that you're not silent anymore and that you share your stories with us. Thank you. Thank you. Deborah is up next. Deborah, who made a delicious carrot cake for my children last night that made it, half of it is still in the fridge, which is amazing. It's because my daughter's out of town. Otherwise, it would be gone. Anyway, Deborah lives in Burien, enjoys walking, making carrot cakes, cookbooks, and hanging out with her friends and family. Money was missing from the register where she worked in a store for the summer, and wackiness ensued. So come on up, Deborah. Tell us about your story.
I stole a comb from the University of Texas Co-op bookstore. I was new in Austin, and in a class I met a girl, we hit it off, and we got to be friends, and she told me one day that she shoplifted from the co-op. And I was shocked, but intrigued. And I said, "But why would you do that? I mean, you can afford that stuff, right?" And she said, "It's a thrill, it's like a high." And I was very straight-laced, but I found it weirdly appealing. So one day I was in there and just took the comb and I put it in my purse. And I felt terrible. And I knew that I was not destined for a life of crime. So I graduated a few years later, and I wanted a job for the summer and into the fall because in October I was going to be going to Europe to travel around by myself. So I found a job at the Austin Community College bookstore with an ensemble cast of characters straight out of a sitcom. I just loved all of them. So there was Joni. She'd just finished high school, and she'd be on the phone. She'd be going, "What? She's pregnant? Who's the father? Isn't he the doctor treating her mother for terminal cancer?" And I thought, her friend was filling her in on the soaps that she was missing because she was at work. Then there was Leo. He was this young Cuban guy, and he just wanted to be an American. He said to me, "I can't stand Cubans." I said, "Why not?" He said, "They're so loud." He said he just wanted to speak English and be like a hippie, rock and roll, stoner kind of guy. Then there was Frank. He was a graduate student getting a doctorate in English literature, and he just wanted to read. So we'd find him on the floor in the English literature section, just reading like the Norton Anthology of British Literature. Our manager was a man named Charles. He was young, he's a sharp dresser, he's good looking, and he was quite the ladies' man, given that he had a wife and 2 kids, a girlfriend and 2 kids, and a bunch of women who had come in all dressed up, asking for him. It was fun. So one afternoon he came in as usual, he needs to close out the register, and he goes, "Oh!" We go, "What?" And he goes, "We're $500 short." We go, "Oh, Charles, count it again." So he's there, he goes, "It's missing. And I'm not saying that any of you took the money, but did you take the money? And we said, no, we didn't take the money. And he's like, oh, he really needed this job. But he had to report it. So he called his superior and told him what happened. And we all had to go down and take a lie detector test. Now, based on the gritty film noir and cop shows that I watched, I knew I was going to be taken down to the station. And he was going to sit me down. There's going to be this bright light in my eyes. And this hard-boiled detective would grill me and grill me and grill me until I gave it up. But in fact, it was done by an independent company. And when we got to the place, we went in, it had all the gritty ambiance of a doctor's waiting room. It had like the couch and the chairs and the magazines and the receptionist who gave us each a clipboard with forms we had to fill out, like at the doctor's office. Wait until your name is called. So we're sitting there and we're on edge. Joni is on the floor going, no, I'm young, please God, no, I didn't do anything. Leo is beside himself. He's going around, he's going, hey, coño, Dios mío, Dios mío, Dios mío. He's reverted totally into Spanish. Frank is reading a book on English literature, and Charles is pacing around, wringing his hands, sweating bullets because he really, really needs this job. I may have appeared calm on the outside, but inside I was freaking out because I had a very compelling reason for fearing this lie detector test. My name was called. I went in. The guy hooked me up to the machine. He goes, okay, here's what we do. I'm going to ask you questions, and you answer either yes or no. Okay, yeah, I got it. He goes, is your name Deborah? Yes. Do you live on Nueces Street? Yes. Did you take the money? No, I didn't take the money. I didn't. He goes, yes or no? I go, oh, right, okay. Did you go to the University of Texas? Yes. Did you take the money? No, I would never take the money. He goes, okay, I got to pause this. You're making my machine crazy. Now, just what is going through your head when I say the word money? And I said, what's going through my head when you say the word money is I gave notice a week ago that I was quitting, and a week from today, I'm going to Europe. And that makes me look incredibly guilty because $500 sure would be nice to have right now for this trip. He said, well, I don't think you took the money, but we need to finish this test. Can we just get on with it? I go, yeah, okay. So we finish the test. Everybody takes the test. And then it's a matter of waiting for the results of the test. Well, I didn't take the money, but I knew that karma was coming for me because of that comb. I'd gotten away with the comb, and now I was going down for $500 I didn't take. We all passed the test. And it was determined that it was just some screw up with the register for the thing, that nobody actually took any money. And I was actually now free to go off to Europe on my solo adventure. And it was a little scary. And I just thought back and I thought, it was so stupid of me to shoplift because someone else shoplifted. That's not the person I want to be. I mean, the person I want to be is a person who doesn't do anything just because somebody else did it. I want to make my own decisions and my own choices and face the consequences on whatever I did, no matter how stupid. And just that realization gave me some confidence. And it made me feel like maybe I sort of knew what I was doing and I'd learned something. And maybe I was better prepared to go off by myself to Europe and just deal with whatever was coming my way. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I was going to make some comment about a comb and me not having hair, but I don't know. I couldn't bring it together. But I was on my way. I know, right? Up next, thank you, Deborah. We have Don West, who has had plenty of opportunities to tell stories in his first two careers, which are ministry and teaching. He isn't afraid of telling stories that make fun of himself, as you will hear tonight. Simply attempting to have an enjoyable dinner and show at a club in South Lake Tahoe, he ends up in the arms of a Marilyn Monroe impersonator as she sings to him and the audience goes crazy. What the hell was he doing there? Don?
Deborah talked about karma. I think mine is that 3 out of the 4 times I've shared here, I've had to follow Deborah. I have 2 props tonight. One of them, and the title of my story is Don and Marilyn Merlot. One of my props is a bottle of Marilyn Merlot. And the story of this bottle and how it's connected to one of the more extreme instances I ever had of wondering, what the hell am I doing here, is what I'm going to share with you. So about a decade before I got that bottle at my surprise 50th birthday party. About a decade before that, my wife Carolyn and I got a chance to go home to Sacramento and visit people. And we went with our best friends, Steve and Laura, to South Lake Tahoe for a day and just did everything there. And they had a cabin there, so they knew where everything is. They showed us around. We just had the greatest time. And then late in the afternoon, Steve won a bunch of money in blackjack. So he was able to treat all 4 of us to dinner and a show, and he had enough so that he could give the maitre d', he paid the maitre d' to give us a good seat. So when you walk in, there's just hundreds of people that would be there, but in the front, I don't know how many tables there were, easily 8, that were long tables that sat, rectangular tables. They might have sat 10 or 12 people, and they were all perpendicular right up against the stage. So here the 4 of us are in the first 4 spots from the stage, and from our perspective, the stage is about here. So great seats, good food, great show. It was a show that I think may have been new at the time, but it may even still be around in different forms. It's Legends of Rock. So maybe 6 or 8 different performers who didn't just cover famous rock songs, but imitated great rock musicians. So we saw Beatles, we saw Elvis, Buddy Holly, even Blues Brothers, all that. And as we're sitting there, we're thinking, you know, some of these guys have been practicing this for 25 years. They're better than the original group. So just really having a good time. Well, we got to the end, and we got to their headlining, their main performer, and that was Marilyn Monroe. So Marilyn comes out on stage, and she sings, great job, spot on impersonation, sings a couple songs, and she starts a stand-up routine. So she's talking, and as she talks, she goes down, and a few tables down was the middle of the stage and a big and a stairway. She walks down the stairs and goes into the audience and takes this young boy's hand and sits him down. He's having this very pleasant conversation, telling jokes and playing with the audience. And for instance, she says, well, what's your name? And he says, Bobby. She says, oh, I used to know a Bobby and his brother John. That's the kind of humor she's doing. So she finishes that, he goes away, she starts singing, goes up on stage, and she walks around the stage, and while she's singing, she walks by us a couple times, and both times she winks at me. And I'm thinking, I don't see how this could be good. And so she keeps singing, and I'm sitting here trying to just relax, and she goes down where she walks off the stage, and she's still coming toward us, and I'm not able to see her coming with my head in my plate. but I can feel and hear her, and she comes and takes a turn around the end of the table, and I'm thinking, what are my options? I really want to just sit here and say no to whatever she's doing, but I'm looking around, there are over 600 people there, and they're all on the edge of the seat wanting to see what's going to happen to me. And so I just sort of caved under the pressure, and it's sort of, I was sitting there, and I sort of follow her all the way, like, the doomed man on the way to jail. And as I'm going up, the 600 are just, well, here, I'll save that. So I'm walking, and she's taking me. I know I'm being taken to the stage. I don't want to do there. And as I'm walking up there, 600 are going crazy. And the worst part about it at that point was that I was, until that point, I was naively assuming that, at least the 3 people who are the closest in the world to me would find a way to give me some kind of support. Didn't happen. So 600 people are shouting and laughing, and above them, I could hear these 3 laughing so hard, I thought, I was concerned one of them might have a stroke. And if you go back to the time before I knew them and the time till now, it's almost 50 years that the 4 of us have known each other. I have never heard a single one of them laugh more uncontrollably at any point than they did right then, on my behalf, apparently. So anyway, Marilyn takes me up onto the stage, and of course, miraculously, while we've been gone, a chair appears. So she takes me up and seats me in the chair, and then she sits across my lap. She's up like this, sitting across my lap. And of course, the 600 plus 3 totally lose it. And they have to wait for them to quiet down. And then she goes about trying to make me feel comfortable, okay? So the first thing she does is she takes she's this close, takes my glasses off, slips them in the front of her dress. A procedure I do my best to try not to observe. And now I'm sitting here without my glasses, and she continues making me feel comfortable. So, what's your name? Don. Oh, what's your second name? What's your last name? And I'm sitting here processing this, and I'm thinking, let's see, I'm a missionary, and I'm in this huge casino lounge, and 2 of the words in the name of my organization are Conservative Baptist. I'm not going to give any more demographic information. So I just repeated, Don. And she picks right up on that. She had no problem. She says, oh, Don. So for the rest of the time with Marilyn, I was Don. So she's ready to go, works through all this whole procedure, tells a couple of jokes, and then she sings her final number, all while she's still sitting in my lap. And that would have been okay, except, and it was, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Yeah, diamonds are a girl's friend. So she starts singing the song. That would have been fine, except I'm not sure how she did it, but she's sitting in the lap, and she got turned over. So as she's singing, she started kissing me over here on this side. And so she started on my chin, and as she sang, she was very slowly working her way around my face through the lyrics and the lipstick both. Keep on around. She gets about up here, and I'm becoming concerned for the 600 plus 3. They're beside themselves, but I realize I'm not going to get any help there. And that's when I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? And I have to find some way to get some kind of control or some kind of agency on my own. So I think back to something that happened on at our wedding service, which is a whole nother story. And I think, oh, can't get any worse than this. So I take her, and I dip her backwards all the way down, and I give her a kiss that would, even though it was me, from the outside, it rivaled a Hollywood kiss, just the, kiss back. And we come back up, and she is spluttering and laughing and beside herself, enjoying it, thankfully. And apparently, maybe that no one ever thought about that before. The 600 plus 3, I'm sure some of them were quiet dentists and accountants, but they lost whatever else they had. And finally, the noise dies down. Marilyn gets me up, gives me my glass, and very expertly gets me back to the table. The show stops. The waiter who seated us comes along and works really hard at making sure he knows that he didn't place me there on purpose. And then we're waiting at the end out in the hall. Steve and I are waiting for Carolyn and Laura to get out of the restroom, and a good number of the 600 walk by us, and it's one after the other. Oh, good job, Don Don. Way to go, Don Don. Whoa, Don Don. Like this, I just hear like this. So for 30 years in some quarters, I've been known as Don Don, and for 20 years, this bottle of Marilyn Merlot has sat empty on my bookcase. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. I feel like you and Wendy have a common enemy with that fourth wall. Like I was feeling you listening to the story, thinking like, oh my God, that's why I hate theater so much. Anyway, good story. Thank you very much. I want to tell you next month, our themes are best or worst vacation and or chemistry. So not best or worst chemistry, like chemistry or best or worst vacation. Okay, so that's August 23rd. And then September 27th, summer's over and or new beginnings. And so those are the ones coming up. Again, if you're interested, please sign up to tell a story. We have amazing people, and you could be another amazing person coming and telling a story. Our final storyteller tonight is Saloni Singh, who describes herself as a corporate rat by day and an introverted writer by night. She's known as the girl in the white headphones at this lounge where she goes regularly to write because she's happiest when she's sitting in a corner, noise cancellation headphones on, writing alone. She won't be doing that tonight. She'll be talking. I hope. I don't actually to see if you have headphones with you. Of her story, she tells us she will share a story about how therapy has helped nurture her inner voice, who happens to say, "What the hell are you doing all the time?" Saloni.
I've been at war with this organization for a year now. And I know what you're imagining. A large global food conglomerate which is putting chemicals in our food, or an oil and gas organization that's ruining our oceans. I wish. I'm very embarrassed to tell you that it's actually this tiny hot yoga studio next to my house. But believe me, this place is pure evil. I mean, everything about this place is wrong. Let's start with the name. Go Yoga. That's just poor English. I mean, what is it? Is it meant to be advice, like you should go for yoga? Or is it like a cheer, like go yoga? And every time I try and walk in, the door's always locked. And if I peek in through the window, there's never anybody behind the reception. So clearly I'm lacking some sort of hot girl password. And I've seen those women covered in perfect Lululemon, going in and out, and seeing them, I just know that they're going to judge the pudge around my waist. What is with those red chairs on the street outside? Like, what is with that? The moment I get done, you push me out and I have to cool off outside? And what is with the twinkly lights? Okay, I love twinkly lights. But you're supposed to put them up to celebrate something. Like, Thanksgiving or New Year's or 4th of July even. But Thursday? What are you celebrating on Thursday? You've clearly forgotten to take them down. And that's because you're lazy. And that's pissing me off. So you need to take those damn lights down. As you can see, so much anger for a year now. And that's why I'm in therapy. Now, in my opinion, what therapy does is it creates a spectrum of people. There are people on the left who've never been to therapy, and sometimes they get triggered and they don't really know why, so they get spiraled. And on the right is what I call the Zen people, who know exactly what bothers them and exactly what they need to do to manage their reaction. I'm somewhere smack in the middle. I've done enough work where I can figure out that I'm being triggered, and if I stop to think about it, I know what's bothering me, but I can't always stop my reaction. So one day, when I'm walking by the studio, and the font of the open sign is beginning to piss me off, I take a deep breath and take myself for a walk. And the small voice inside me comes up and goes, "Hey, buddy, what's really bothering you?" And of course, the truth came up, because there's always a backstory. You see, I started working out very late in life. And it's because I met a friend who told me that I should think of my body like a friend who takes care of me every day, and so I should take care of it. And that made me want to work out. So I didn't know what to do, so I tried everything: running, spinning, hanging from ceilings, strength training, until I found my true love, hot yoga. Those classes made me feel so great. In that perfectly heated room, my body would bend like a pretzel. And I would calm down with every breath. And when I would finish the class and I'd be lying there covered in my sweat, I felt like I could do anything. And then it happened. One day, I bent to pick up a pen, and my back snapped. I was rushed to the hospital in a wheelchair, and the MRI told me that the last 2 portions of my spine were protruding out. So much pain. I was bedridden for 6 weeks. I limped for months. It was a year before I could bend down again. But by then, this proud pretzel could barely bend past her knees. And I felt so betrayed. How could something that was supposed to help me hurt me? So I never went back. I gave it up. So here I am, walking around Lake Washington in Kirkland, and all of this is coming back to me. And the voice comes back and goes, "Hey, come on, that's not fair. You remember what the doctor said? The doctor said it wasn't the yoga that had hurt you. In fact, he said it was a yoga that had made your body so strong that you recovered without surgery or painkillers. And you're fine now. You've been fine for years. Come on, let it go. Maybe we should give it another shot. I mean, you did love it, right?" I hate it when this voice is right. So, a month ago, I signed up for a class. And this time when I reach, magically, the door opens. I walk in, and there's this adorable man in this bright orange shirt behind the reception. So I go up, and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And I melt, and I go, "I don't know, I feel like I'm injured and really scared, and I think I'm going to faint or I'm going to fart, and I don't think I should be here, and I'm not ready." And he goes, whoa, you're fine. And he takes full 10 minutes, talks me through all the poses, understands my injury, and slowly nudges me into the class. But I've still put my mat next to the door, because I'm going to get the hell out of here in the middle, right? Like, I'm not going to survive this. But before I can sneak out, there's this booming voice from the corner. So the instructors just walked in. So I turned around, but oh my God, it's him. Only the orange shirt has now come off, and he's all rippling muscles. So I decide to stay for my health. And then the class starts. In 10 minutes, I'm beginning to sweat. And 20 minutes, I'm beginning to die. And 30 minutes, I'm wondering why no one's calling 911. And 55 minutes, I'm going to die. And it's done. Class is over. He cools us off. And I walk out of the class on shaking legs. And I find a seat. And my brain is going, oh my God, I did it. That didn't hurt. I did it. And in this euphoria that I'm feeling, it's like I'm seeing the place for the first time. So there is seating inside, because I'm sitting on it. So what are those benches? Oh, those benches are for the community, for anybody who wants to take a rest. The instructors man the desk before every class so that they can meet nervous people like me before class. And then they lock the door during the class so that no one can just walk in to disrupt the experience. Oh. So I'm looking around, and my eyes catch the instructor who's now back behind the desk. And he looks up at me and goes, "You did so well." And these two Lululemon-covered regulars who were on their way out stop, turn around, pat me on the shoulder going, "You were so great, we hope we see you again." And they walk out. Huh? And as I'm sitting there, this sob escapes me. And I cover my face with a towel, embarrassed that someone is seeing me, but my face is so covered and squared that no one can see that tears are beginning to stream down my face. So I go, what? So I lean back, and I try and label this emotion. And you know what it was? It was years of fear and shame leaving my body. Yes. So as I left, happily hugging my yoga mat, and walked back home, I realized how often hate is just hurt hiding within. So the next time you hate someone or something, let me be the little voice inside your head that says, "Hey, buddy, what's really bothering you?" Because then, hopefully, you'll be able to take off the gloomy glasses and you'll see that the world is covered in tiny places, filled with kind people, covered in twinkly lights, because they're waiting to celebrate you. Thank you for listening.
Wow, like what a perfect way to end our evening tonight. Thank you so much, Saloni. And thank you for coming. Please join us again next month. Again, you can find us online at Meetup if you search for 7 Stories or 7 Stories at Burien Culture Hub /7 Stories. So thanks for coming, and that's it.